So I'd like to call the West Melbourne City Council meeting to order on this 20th day of February, and I'll lead us in the pledge, and then we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. And if we could have a roll call vote. Our vote. I always say that. I wrote it down. Don't say that again. And I did it anyway. If we could have the roll call, please.
Mayor Bentley.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Young. Here. Councilmember Ditmore. Here. Councilmember Frampus.
Here.
Councilmember McDowell. Here. Councilmember Volz.
Here.
So we have a full house. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the audience for being here. Welcome, everyone, to the meeting of City Council. Members of the public are welcome to speak on any topic, whether it is on tonight's agenda or any issue that is important to you. Each person that wishes to speak should complete a speaker card located over by the door and submit it ahead of time, if possible, to the city clerk. But in actuality, you can do it at any time, but we try to do it right. After you've been recognized to speak, please use the microphone at the podium and clearly state your name and address for the record. Please address all your comments to the City Council rather than individual members. Direct all questions to this chair. Speakers will be given up to 3 minutes, and we have half an hour set aside for that. All right, Christy, I think you're up first. Ms. Fisher? Yeah, second and third too,
but. Mayor and Council, since this is the second reading of ordinance number 2024-05, I'm certainly here to answer any remaining questions that you all have, but it's the second reading, so if you would like to make a motion, we could have the city attorney read the title and proceed.
Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 2024-05, an ordinance of the City of West Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending Chapter 63 definitions, Section 63-6, sign definitions, providing a definition for mural and providing for clarification of wall sign definition. Chapter 72 signs, Section 72-11, to prohibit murals, and 72-14, permanent on-site signs, providing for clarification of wall sign size regulations, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this topic? Seeing none, will of the council, Mr. Ditmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Make a motion to approve the second reading ordinance number 2024-05, amending Chapter 63 definitions and Chapter 72 signs.
Ms. Volz.
Second.
Any other further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Christie, item B.
Okay, as we have done before, since agenda items 4B and C deal with the same property located at 9065 Ellis Road, I'm going to do the presentation together, but if you all can remember to make your motions separately on each item.
Okay.
The address, I know in item C it says 9605, but it is 9065 Ellis. So this is both a small-scale comprehensive plan map amendment and the rezoning. And I will, at this point, look at the city attorney to talk about quasi-judicial.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Therefore, one of the responsibilities that you have is to make it known to the public and to the applicant if you've received any information about this application beyond what's presented to you in either the staff report or the staff comments. This does not include conversations with staff, but does include conversations with others. And this also includes if you've gone by the site to view it yourself. So at this time, please disclose any quasi-judicial disclosures that you may have.
I did drive by the site.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Is this the site location at, I think MBV Engineering, are they working on that one? Mr. Moyes?
No,
it's
this,
not.
no.
Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, thank you.
It's contiguous to the west. This property is contiguous to the east. The property you're asking about is contiguous to
Yeah,
the
I'll
west.
show that on the map in a
Okay,
minute.
I just
but-
wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Yeah, it wasn't MBV who was working on Jason Wadsworth's property, if that's the one you're asking about. It was actually BSC.
All right, thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody from the public want to talk on this topic? Or either B or C? Seeing none, we'll move on. So we need to get a motion on item B, if someone wants to make that motion.
Do you want to do the presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just so that everyone in the
thought you
public
had.
understands what we're talking about, in case they haven't seen the agenda. This property is owned by the Champions, and as you'll see on the aerial, that item in blue, the bluish sort of tint, with a yellow box that says 9065 Ellis Road, that's this subject property. And remember, this is only 2.37 acres. The property that Mr. Rohde was referring to is to the west, and it's a bigger property, almost 10 acres. But that's not the subject of this, two separate property owners. The existing use is that there was an academy. It was a private school called Journeys Academy. They've since vacated the 3,600 square foot building. And the proposal is for a different type of use, but in the same building. And we'll go through the zoning and the future land use here in a minute. Just to remind everybody, this property has been developed for several years, since 1998, and it was developed in the county, and then they annexed into the city, and then in 2013, with Journeys Academy, that's when this property was rezoned from industrial, because it had industrial ever since 1998, to institutional. Institutional is a very use-specific type of zoning and future land use. It's not, as I've said many times, it's not as though we, paint the maps with a lot of institutional. It's the churches and the organizations that come to us and ask for the institutional zoning. Schools, such as this one, even, or if they're public. At that time, in 2013, to make it clear where the remaining industrial property was, 2.03 acres was split off from the red square that you have on the screen. In 2023, June of 2023, apparently, is when Journeys Academy moved out of the building. The property owner is in the audience, and if you all have specific questions for him, he and I have talked a little bit about that. But that's also why he prepared attachment 2 of the staff report, and that's his email to Denise Curry of the planning staff. Just a reminder, with the future land use map, why is there a process to change it? Part of it is the state of Florida says that there will be a process to change it. So any color change on that map, which is what we're doing, tonight, means that you go through this process, and it's all public hearing, as the mayor had stated, through the Planning and Zoning Board, through City Council, and then it gets sent up to the state if it gets approved. So that part of the determination from the state's perspective is about urban sprawl, compatibility, consistency with a comprehensive plan. So the request is to revert back to industrial, the future land use designation of industrial, and that's why we have those two images on the screen on the left-hand side. The gray little box with the circle, the yellow circle around it is how it's designated currently, but you can see there's blue around it. And the property that doesn't have any color to the east is actually a property that's in the county. If it does go to industrial, then that sort of block, if you want to call it, would then be all blue. I know there's been some discussion about the Live Local Act because of the way that it stands right now. Industrial properties could be used for affordable housing that qualifies under Live Local. So I'll get to that here on this slide. We always do our comprehensive plan review And we look at the surrounding properties, the future land use goals, the maximum infrastructure impacts. And then I'm also adding in that we did, analyze the Live Local Act possibility. And that's why we're saying, although the state of Florida would allow apartments to be built on this industrial designated land, if we do the designation for industrial, the small property size and the low density and mixed use requirement makes this unlikely. And as a reminder, we have a moratorium until June 19, 2024 on the Live Local. But that's another aerial view of the same property, showing the building and the parking lot. Sort of that light gray color is the parking lot. Again, thinking of the maximum impacts, industrial versus institutional, there could be a slight increase in building size on that property. But again, these are just numbers that until somebody would get in there and demolish and then rebuild a building and put new parking and stormwater retention, this is more of a paper exercise. But the last bullet is, again, where I indicate, just like we did in the staff report, that this is 2.37 acres. Remember that part of that statement in the state of Florida's Live Local Act is that if we have 20% or less of industrial designated lands, then we require mixed use. So that's what I'm saying, that it's not just that it would be straight apartments. There would have to be a mixed use component, and that's a component we're figuring out in an ordinance to bring back to you all. The other factor that I wanted to point out is that there is an airport height restriction of 40 feet. And even though under the Live Local Act, they would technically be able to go higher, there's FAA and even FDOT has an arm of the airport aviation, and they would probably restrict that. Then there's also the question in my mind, because of some of the maps and some of the wording in the Florida statutes as to whether housing would even be allowed on Ellis Road. So that's questionable to me. But let's say that you did the math. It would equate to 43 apartments. And with a mixed-use component, that would have to be 36,000 square feet of non-residential, commercial, and industrial. It's very difficult to fit 43 apartments, an industrial building, parking, and stormwater on 2.37 acres. Most of the apartment complexes that we have seen have been 200 units or larger, and they're usually on 16 acres or more. All right, so for the surrounding future land use, as I try to indicate, you have a lot of industrial around this property. And even in the county, the vacant land to the east, that has a designation of industrial. So it does seem like it's compatible with its surrounding areas. And then that last bullet is, again, if you wanted to ask the property owner a little bit more, this would allow contractor offices and other light manufacturing uses to be in that building and on that property. We always look at in this case, the industrial future land use policies, and it's consistent with that. And then the property rights analysis. Remember, this is an element that the state of Florida asked us all to put into our comprehensive plans, and the statement in the bottom at the blue. In our opinion, with the way that property is set up, the best use of the existing building would probably be industrial. And again, we have the attachment that tells you about the owner's property use goal. Switching gears to the other item, which is the rezoning portion. Again, it's got to match the future land use, so that's why we start with the future land use. If you all approved it tonight, it would go from the P1 zoning to the M1. And we do a very similar compatibility analysis. Again, if you look at the zoning designations, it's all industrial surrounding the property on 4 sides. And that brings us to the end. So the Planning and Zoning Board conducted their public hearing on both these items on February 13th, and they voted to recommend approval of both items to City Council. So for agenda item 4B, we have, approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-06. And item 4C for the rezoning, approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-07. And if I could have the city attorney read those titles, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 2024-06, an ordinance of the City of West Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan to change the future land use on parcels of land totaling 2.37 acres located at 9065 Ellis Road, and as more fully described herein, from the City of West Melbourne Institutional to City of West Melbourne Industrial, providing an effective date. And ordinance number 2024-07, an ordinance of the City of West Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, rezoning a 2.37 acre parcel of land located at 9065 Ellis Road from City of West Melbourne P1 Institutional to City of West Melbourne M1 Light Industrial and Warehousing, providing an effective date.
Thank you, sir. And since I didn't give Christy a chance to speak before, I'll ask the audience once again, anybody want to speak on this topic on either 4B or 4C? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Ditmore?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-06, the future land use map amendment as presented by staff.
Ms. Foltz?
Yes, I will second that, but I have a question for Christy. Because it's 2.37 acres, that kind of saves us from the live local issue, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Mr. Frampus?
I know you said the owner was in the audience, and you might have the answer to this. They plan on tearing down the existing building, and does the new owner plan on tearing down the existing building and building a different one, or using that building as the office space?
It wasn't my understanding, but I'd like the owner to get up and address that, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, J.C. Champion, 1601 Stallion Way, Gastonia, North Carolina. To answer your question, no, the intent is to utilize the existing 3,600 square foot office building.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I answer any other questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, anything else you want to add?
Ms. Young?
Yes, thank you. I'm very glad that you're there. So I read the packet, Christine. I realized in order to make it worthwhile for a builder to build a large apartment complex for the Live Local, you need over 16 acres. So the contiguous lots to this lot, are they small lots like this one, 2.37 or 3 or 4? Are they small?
Let me see if I have it on. Okay, on this slide, the other property owned by the same owner, the 2.03 acre lot, is not part of this rezoning. It's already designated as industrial, and that's the only property that you own, right, are those two lots?
That was my next question. You don't own any of the other contiguous lots, so you couldn't combine these lots into a larger parcel of land.
That's correct, no, and that is not the intention.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. McDowell?
Thank you, Mayor. Since you're up there, I had a question about what if it wasn't rezoned? What would you have done? I mean, what is your intent if it didn't get rezoned?
To answer that, originally I tried to find another tenant that would fall within the institutional use, and to no avail. So in relation and communication with local real estate folks, it was determined that the best use and market use of the property would be industrial, which was what the original zoning was.
Excellent, thank you.
Ms. Foltz, your light's still on?
Sorry.
Ms. Young? Oh, they all went off. Great. Okay. So ordinance number 2024-06, we have a motion from Mr. Ditmore, a second from Ms. Foltz. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. And now we're at ordinance 2024-07C.
Combined, so need a motion?
Do we have to do separate motions, I think, right? So, Mr. Ditmore?
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-07, rezoning for property located at 9605 Ellis Road as presented by staff.
Mr. Frampus?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will move on ordinance number 2024-07. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. So now we're at our public forum, And so persons wishing to speak must fill out a request speaker card, and you had your chance to do that. So anybody from the public want to speak on any topic? Wow, quiet group. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. So I need a motion to, the only thing on the consent agenda is the minutes, so I need a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Move to approve.
Ms. Adams?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Adams, okay. Ms. Volz?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Reps is off. So I have a motion to approve the minutes from Ms. Adams and a second from Ms. Volz. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0, moving us to the action agenda. So Mr. Mark Petroni.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Item you have in front of you, I'm Mark Petroni, obviously, Capital Projects Manager. The item that you have in front of you is our septic to sewer conversion project that has the homes in the Lake Ashley Circle, Dundee Circle, Banner Place, and 15 homes along the south side of Sheridan Road. These homes have been identified as having a very big source of pollution or nutrients that are going and seeping into the groundwater. The Save the Indian River Lagoon project plan that recommends replacement of the system, to the septic systems, to eliminate the sources of the pollution and reduce the impact overall on the Indian River Lagoon. By converting these to the sewer system, it's going to reduce the amount of basically nitrogen and phosphate that ends up going and mitigates into the river lagoon. And the intent is to hopefully help save and protect the health of the lagoon, including the seagrass, fish, and the marine life. The impact fiscally, I'm going to apologize. The city received grant money, but I put an 8, should have been a 9 on the top there, so it's a total of $9,767,987. You can see how it's broken down from the FDP, Department of Environmental Protection, St. John's River Management, and Save the Indian River Lagoon. When you add those up, it comes up to that number. The city has in our CIP budget $8 million. The engineer's estimate of probable cost came in at $8 million. We advertised, we received 4 bids. And after reviewing, along with the engineer's letter of recommendation has recommended going with the lowest bid that came in at $7,810,400. And the actual impacts of this fiscally is really good. First is obviously it came in under budget. Second, we have 119 residents of West Melbourne that are going to benefit from going from septic system to sewer. And the biggest thing, third overall, we're here to help protect and save our beautiful Indian River Lagoon by taking the nutrients out of the system. Based on all that, I'm here to recommend that you authorize our city manager to execute agreement with Young's Communication LLC, which provided the lowest bid in the amount of $7,810,400 plus 5% contingency. Owner's contingency of $390,520 for a total not to exceed amount of $8,200,920. And I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Deputy Mayor Adams.
Sir, you have 3 beautiful phrases: under budget, good for our residents, environmental stewardship. I feel like that's a win-win-win. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement with Young's Communication as written.
Mr. McDowell.
I just have a question. I don't want to have a second. So do you want to try to get a second?
Go ahead with your question.
My question is a couple of questions.
All right, we have to have the second.
Okay.
So, go ahead. I have then who is next?
Second.
Detmore, I'm going to put you down as next because the thing shows everybody right now. Detmore is the second. So go ahead, Mr. McDowell.
Thank you, Mayor. 119 of how many left to do? How many are there? Like 300 that we have still in our queue?
This is the second actual phase because we already accomplished the first neighborhoods. There was a study done, and these came up as the ones that came in the highest. There might be a couple other subdivisions, and we do have some sporadic homes throughout.
Right. I guess that's what my question is. I know a couple years back we had a plan Is this part of the plan that, for the conversion?
Correct. These neighborhoods are the next highest impact to the lagoon. Once these are completed, we should be somewhere around 200 homes left. So we're at about 300 and some right now of septics. Otherwise, the rest of the community is on sewer.
And this is tapping into the half-cent sales tax. We took advantage of that. Okay, great. I just am trying to get a grasp of where this lays from where we had decided a few years back. Are we on plan? I mean, are we moving along? And how much longer before we can celebrate that we are septic-free as a city, which is unbelievable good news.
Well, I apologize, I wasn't here a couple years ago back, but I know from completing the Sylvan Estates project just to the west of this, or east of it, this was, again, identified as the second highest, and there are a couple areas, they're not as localized, I guess, in that general area would be the next ones that we would focus on and have to go back and receive more grant money.
And just a quick follow-up. I mean, we spent a considerable amount of time methodically going through creating criteria to try to decide what is next so we don't have this unfair sense of my neighborhood versus your neighborhood, so the citizens know that we are doing it according to the biggest impact on our returns. So I'm sure we're following that rule, is what I'm gathering.
Yeah, this is all based on the study that was done to determine which ones had the highest impact.
Thank you.
Mr. Frampus.
You had said that we're having problems with these septic systems leaching into this thing. That's true for all septic, right? I mean, that's the plan. I mean, it's not, these houses in particular aren't a problem per se, but we're trying to get away from the septic and go to a sewer system so we can better treat the water, right? You had said that these houses in particular were identified as being a problem, but that's not necessarily true, right?
Yeah, kind of saying the same thing two different ways. So
I just don't want people to get all uptight saying that, we're
all septics leach, right? But the ones closest to canals in West Melbourne have the biggest impact on the Indian River Lagoon because that leaches to the canal and then the canal drains to the lagoon. So
I wanted to make a point. So they're not failing. We're just trying to better the system.
Just an opportunity to get rid of some septic, which in the grand scheme of the whole Indian River Lagoon is trying to be productive to make the lagoon better.
Thank you for that clarity.
Ms. Foltz.
I have a question. The people who are having their septic tanks removed in this whole process, do they understand that their water bills are going to go way up? Now they're going to have to pay the sewer fees?
There was a letter sent out to residents prior to me coming on board. I sent out a letter, and there will be another letter going back to try and educate the residents as well, but I do believe they all understand that there's also a connection fee. This is all being done through grant money, so there's really no cost to them, so it's a huge benefit, but they are on the hook for the $3,000 connection fee, and we do have payment programs that we can offer them as well, so yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that they know that they're not all of a sudden hit with, oh my God, now where am I going to get the money to get this done?
Very good question, Councilwoman. One item that the city did early on this project is we sent letters to every resident. We were only going to move forward with this project if the residents wanted us to move forward. And we did get 100% return at that time of all the residents being interested. That letter explained that there was a $3,000 connection, and that obviously once you were connected, along with your water bill would be a sewer bill.
All right, thank you. I'm very happy to hear that.
Ms. Young?
So the areas that we're doing are older subdivisions at this time, correct? All right, so on Fell Road, down by where the park is, the community park, Cobber Court down there, that's a relatively new subdivision. They were further away than the 500 feet where you're required to connect to sewer, so we let them put septics in at that time, even though that subdivision's probably only 10 years old. And they're not near a canal. Are they going to be part of this at any point?
For that, again, I wasn't here at the time, but I believe the council allowed that developer to go ahead and
We did.
put septic in versus doing the sewer. That'd be something, again, it was before my time, so I can't really.
Yeah, we don't see the city ever spending funds to go back and do that subdivision.
So we'll always have some, we'll never be 100%.
We're always going to have some septic systems. And the reason we'll always have some is there are certain areas of our community, onesie twosies I call them, that properties that have annexed in that are very far away from sewer lines. And those were just cost feasible, never going to get it, because part of the way we get the grants is we show that there's good bang for the buck, right? We're not going to spend $1 million to get one person off. We're doing them clustered, and the Sorrel program actually rates our application based on proximity, how many we can accomplish in one project, and then those proximities to the canals.
Okay.
So we're always probably going to end up, we're probably always going to have 50 on septic. That's probably going to be our number. We'll have about 50 homes on septic.
All right, thank you very much.
Ms. Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick note, I know that you had stated we're asking residents to pay the $3,000 connection fee. With the grant and funds that were secured for this project, what is that savings to just one family that maybe, if we didn't run this project to make it a priority for that neighborhood, what would the connection fee for one household be?
A lot.
We're spending about $75,000 per house to convert them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a very good benefit to the homeowner.
Mr. Frampus?
And Ms. Volz had stated that they're removing the septic. We're not removing the septic tanks, right? They get filled, right?
They get abandoned in place, so they get, we poke the holes in them and then fill them with sand.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page when we're talking about it. Is there anything else that we're doing that just?
No, we did this, we were one of the first in Brevard County to finish a project. Well, we were one of the first to get granted a project, one of the first to finish a project, and now we're on our second project, and there's already some communities in Brevard County that are still working to get their first project off the ground. So Sorrel's been a very, very good partner to work with on this project. They like that they're seeing some results on that money.
Mr. McDowell?
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate Councilwoman Young bringing that 100% question to the table, because that is important to understand. My question was really about the plan, 100% of the plan. So thanks for the clarification. It'll be difficult to get to that ultimate where there's always an exception, but the plan that we had in place will get us to completion if we keep going down the road we're going. So thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification.
Ms. Volz?
Yeah, I think, Tim, when we were talking earlier, I'm pretty sure you said that they were going to remove them. So that's probably not what you meant.
Yeah, when I say we're converting septic to sewer and we're getting rid of their septics, that's a poor choice of words by my part. We stopped digging septics out probably about 15, 20 years ago, and found that it's the practice that works best is to, obviously poke holes so that they filter and they drain, but that we fill them with sand and leave them in place. There are a few exceptions. Sometimes they're in the way of things. Sometimes there's other little issues, but for the vast majority, they stay in place.
Okay. The other thing is, when we talked earlier today, you mentioned sorrel, and I didn't have a clue what you were talking about. And so I don't know if everybody in the audience knows exactly what you're talking about when you say sorrel. So I just thought you might mention.
Very, very good point. So Save Our Indian River Lagoon, it's the half-cent sales tax, and Tom Bradford was the first to clue me in on the acronym sorrel, because he got tired of saying Save Our Indian River Lagoon. So eventually we just started using sorrel.
So Tom made that up?
So Tom is the inventor of the phrase sorrel in West Melbourne.
Okay. Okay.
Any further discussion? Ms. Volz, your lights on?
No.
Seeing none, so we're on the topic of septic to sewer. We have a motion from Deputy Mayor Adams, a second from Mr. Ditmore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. So we're on to establishing recreation fee schedule. Aaron Murphy. Come on down.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City
Hi.
Council. I'm here to discuss recreation fees. So the current fee schedule has been in place since 2011. So to maintain sustainability with our recreation programs and facilities, I think it's prudent for us to review and update the fee schedule. I did an analysis of local benchmarks with our neighboring communities, such as City of Melbourne, Palm Bay, Brevard County, and Satellite Beach. I also did some market standards where I have been for the past 10 years and looked at that. And what I'm recommending is that we do a regular review of our fee schedule. Our old one didn't even have a lot of amenities that we do have already. And adjust them to bring them in line with the average fees charged by comparable agencies. And this was brought to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board and approved with a few modifications that have been changed on the fee schedule. I did add some comparison slides to our local neighborhoods who, that was mainly Community Park, which is our newest resource, our newest attraction, and how we fare with them and how we would change it compared to that. Any questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Frampus?
Have you gotten any pushback from the community?
I did have some people come and speak at the Parks and Rec Advisory Board to that we were to fall in line more with, they had questions of how we were faring with local neighborhoods, but I was able to show to them how we do compare to local agencies in our neighborhood.
And they went away satisfied? Is that what you're telling me? Or
I
they
haven't
just
heard
went
anything
away?
else.
I don't think they went away satisfied.
Mr. Ditmore?
I'm going to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-01, establishing the fee schedule for the West Melbourne recreational facilities.
Mr. Frampus? Any further discussion? Ms. Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question. Underneath fee exemptions, we have standing reservations by military veteran organizations. When you say standing, are those organizations that have already secured dates, or are those for military veteran organizations moving forward as well?
That'd be moving forward as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I need a motion to adopt resolution. You got a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a motion on the floor for Mr. Ditmore, yes, and second for Mr. Frampus. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0. Thank you.
Good job.
And now Christie's back up with revising the development fee schedule.
About 2 years ago, we had updated the development fee schedule, and Mr. Rohde, heard that we were looking at kind of clarifying some of our fees that have to do with the comprehensive plan and annexation. And it was really more the wording in that. So he asked us to look at all the fees that were in the schedule that we had 2 years ago. So that's what we're bringing forward to you. We have shown and strike through and underline the changes that we've made. And I'll try to answer any questions, but other than that, if you all can entertain a motion to approve that resolution, making those changes, please.
Mr. Ditmore.
Sorry. I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-02, revising the development review fee schedule.
Ms. Young,
Second?
your light's on, Mr. Ditmore. Do you have another question? Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mr. Ditmore and a second by Ms. Young to adopt resolution number 2024-02. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. So we come to our last item, I think, is revising the building fee schedule, and Dan Ferry is up for that one.
So I'm going to cover our building for our building official. And so again, before you We have a couple of changes redlined to for clarification, just so that you can see the numbers that we adjusted. And happy to answer any questions. Again, we did add one category. Otherwise, we did not currently have a electrical new solar permit, and so we added that to the list. But otherwise, before you is the list of fee increases, most of them a $10 increase. Again, as the staff memo indicates, haven't adjusted these fees in over 10 years. And so before you is updated fee schedule that we are looking for council to approve.
Mr. Ditmore.
I'm not going to make a motion just yet because I have a question about this. Are these fees, and maybe I've got this confused, but aren't these fees attached to the money that we're trying to spend down right now?
And we are, and we'll be going out for RFP, and so we'll by the time next year's budget rolls around, we'll have all of our building money for the new building department encumbered and looking to move forward.
Okay, so I'm a little bit concerned about this one. So we are kind of under the gun to spend down the money that we have, and we're going to do that, which I understand. And when would this be effective?
Effective at certainly open for whenever the council would like to make it effective. We could make it effective.
Would it be immediately if we approved it tonight?
You could, or you could make it effective in a future date.
My concern is that we're kind of sort of being scrutinized because we have too much money and we haven't spent it down yet, even though we're intending to. But now we're trying to say, we need to increase those fees. Now, I'm not opposed to increasing the fees to bring them up to where they probably should be. But we're sitting here with a pot of money that we haven't spent down, and I don't certainly want the state to walk in and go, you haven't spent this money down, and now you're raising your fees to even put it up more, even though it's going to take us a while to build this location out, probably like a year, I would say, before we're doing this. My recommendation would be to put this off to maybe next year, get closer to when that building's done, so we spend some of that money down. But
or we could make it effective the first of the budget, which would be October 1st.
You have the option to make it effective immediately or at a future date. However, the building fees generally are supposed to be a good faith estimate of the cost that the city has into them. So if the building department has analyzed the cost and determined this is what this type of inspection costs the city, then we should be recouping that from the applicants.
But how did we get to the point where we have millions of dollars in those accounts if we were doing a good faith estimates in the past? I mean, it just seems like it.
Because we were allowed to accumulate 4 times as much.
I mean, we must have been charging more.
Yeah, because the fees don't just cover the staff time or direct costs. It can also cover some of the incidental costs, and that includes the future plans for a building department building.
What I meant is at some point we were collecting a lot of money that there wasn't a balance there. So obviously we had, was it $3 or $4 million in there? I can't remember. It was quite it was.
Yeah, and I think the attorney kind of hit that on the head, right? Where part of those fees were going into the continued growth of the department, the staffing that we've increased, the new building. So I completely understand the position of having money in that account and then looking to adjust the fees. And so I think the good compromise would be to have these fees effective the first date, the first day of the new budget year, which would be October 1st, which allows us to adjust that. And by then, we should have the money for the building department building encumbered, which would take it off the books, and we'd be good with the state then.
Is there, okay. So your recommendation now is to wait till October 1st?
To make these effective October 1st.
Okay. I'll agree with that at this point. I'll agree to make a motion to revise the building fee schedule effective October 1st, and that'll be resolution number 2024-03.
Ms. Young?
Second.
Mr. Frampus?
Yeah, just so we're clear, this was a direct result of them changing the rules is why we have so much money. I mean, it's not like we were collecting too much. This was a direct result of the state changing the rules, and we're not allowed to keep as much as we were previously allowed to keep. So that's why we have too much. It's not like we're over collecting.
And we're a growing community, and that day will come to an end where we're not a growing community. So we want to be positioned. We want to have the right size building and the right size staff for the community that we're going to be, that 40,000 person community that we're going to be. And so, you know, right now, if you look at our forecast of how this will work out, we'll be in good shape. We'll encumber the money for the building will get built, and then, you know, every 2 years, every 3 years, it'll be back to normal, coming in front of this body, talking about, you know, fees based on what it costs to run the operation.
The two fees that we actually chose to reduce, why aren't we leaving that the same?
Yeah, so we looked at those. It's actually a bit of an error because we went back and forth on this, the discussion. We actually, our current minimum building fee is actually $60. I just noticed that when we were flipping through.
So it's not 100.
It's not 100. Okay. Our three neighboring communities are 100. We are currently at 60. We're proposing 70. That's the only error that I saw as we just
if the neighboring communities are 100, why are we not choosing to go to 100?
Because we took a look at our cost to do those permits, and again, our minimum permit, we're talking hot water heater, pool heater, you know, those under $2,000 home repairs. Is really kind of the bread and butter of part of our community right now. And so there's very high volume, and that's a very efficient process for us. Because in Florida, what I've learned, which was not the same in Wisconsin, is the year the homes are built, the roofs, the air conditioners, the furnaces, and the pool heaters and the pool equipment all tend to fail right around the same time. So we're in those neighborhoods a lot, clustered, and it's efficient to be able to provide those inspection services. And so, again, going back to the true cost, we're supposed to charge what it costs us to do the inspection, and so we feel comfortable with that $70.
I can scratch out this 100 and put 60.
That first $100 is definitely in those first two $100. It should have said 60, changing to 70.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Frampus asked my first question because I also noticed that those were the only fees going down versus everything else was going up. But my second question is, Mr. Rohde, you just stated that staff will be reviewing this every 2 to 3 years to bring forward to council. The staff report had that staff is going to be reviewing annually. So are you expecting staff to review that separately, and will it come before council every year, or is it just a staff review? We
like to take a look at fees every year when we do the budget, but we don't like to adjust them all the time, right? It's a process that we like to stay consistent with and try to find out where we're at, but we don't want to be coming in front of the council and changing things $3 or $5 or, you know, that's you know, we try to factor that in when we're making adjustments.
So when do you expect is the next time council would probably have to review?
So last time was 12 years. It will be less than last time.
All right.
I can, you know, with the one caveat to that, you know, for planning and building, we'll probably be looking at coming in front of the council every 2 to 3 years. The park one, to credit to Erin and her team, we didn't really have a lot of this, so it's brand new, and so I don't plan to bring this back anytime soon unless there are some adjustments we need to make, because we can only charge fees that the council approves. So if one of these fees, if we're seeing that, boy, we're too cheap on something and we need to raise it, or boy, we're too expensive, nobody's renting that, so let's bring it down $20, $30. We want to come in front of the council to get that right, because that's brand new. A lot of the park stuff is brand new, whereas these other fees have been established for over 20 years.
Okay, good to know. Thank you, sir.
Mr. McDowell?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm kind of with Councilmember Ditmore here in the fact of the image that of, raising fees and then building buildings and trying to, make sure that we got those two areas covered. So my question is, and you kind of answered it in the sense of, what if we got it wrong? What if it was truly closer to October and we said, boy, we probably should have rethought that. We can do a resolution to correct a resolution, correct?
Correct and correct.
Okay, so I mean, it isn't like if we blow it, we can't fix it.
We don't have, we're not required.
Wait, one.
No, that's fine, I'm just
Mr.
general.
Frampus? Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that this, we have a plan. We have a plan, and we're following through with the plan, and I think we're meeting our requirement as long as we follow through with our plan. Is that correct, Mr. Gary? Even if we go past October 1st, we still have a plan, and we're going through with it.
That's correct, yeah.
And so, Mr. City Manager, you're comfortable with the adjustment to October?
I am. I realize the optics,
Yeah.
and so that there's not a problem with that.
All right, any further discussion? So we have a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-03 with a couple revisions. I think two of them are just corrections, and the other is to delay this until October instead
October
of
1,
immediately.
2024.
And that motion's from Mr. Ditmore, and we have a second from Ms. Young. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So that passes 7-0. So now we're on to City Council reports, and we start with Andrea Young.
No report.
Mr. McDowell?
I'd like to delay mine to October. No, I'm just kidding. I do have
I
a
second
list.
that
No.
motion.
I can't second my own motion. TBO, I wanted to congratulate Councilwoman Young, who is now another year of chair of the TPO, so good job. And I sat in on my first meeting, and boy, she conducts that meeting pretty well. So there's a big group of colleagues there, and you do a great job. So good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other than that, I attended the regular meetings throughout the, the chamber and I did attend a supervisor of election update from Tim Bobanek, and the Business Voice had sponsored that, and it was fascinating about the what's going on as far as elections. Is on the roster there's a lot of inactive voters, so that was removed from the roster. There's the what else was it? It was the mail-in ballot initiative, so that's all going on. There's a lot of activity around that, and as we get closer to the elections, I just kind of want to give you guys heads up that if you don't know already, that's all out there. And then, of course, that we'll be conducting, I'm not sure if we're going to have here for the presidential primary, the polling place here, but I thought it was interesting because this will just be the one, because it's primary, so it'll be just one political party that has a primary. So if you hear of anybody wanting to go to the other party who shows up, there is no primary. So that was all kind of interesting how people just assume that covers everybody. And I thought also what was fascinating for us to know is that in that is a whole list of individuals that, including our governor, will be on that primary ballot, because they had to make those decisions early in the process, and suspending their campaign doesn't mean they are going away. So I thought that was all fascinating. So if you hear, wow, there's all these people on the ballot, that's because they had to make that decision back in 2023. So good stuff for the supervisor of election. I always feel more and more comfortable every time I hear them. Very fair and articulate. Enjoyed the comprehensive plan. Thank you for that. That was helpful. And then the ribbon cutting to the group today. That was an excellent job. So thank you.
Ms. Volz?
Yes, I had the Parks and Rec Board, and they redid all the things that they did at last month's meeting, so that was entertaining. And then course, today was that, Sunflower House, which was very nice over there. They did a great job. I mean, it really was awesome. But I don't know if this is the time, but I have a question for Mr. Attorney on this letter that you left us that you sent to Ashley Moody, Attorney General. And on the last, on your conclusion, you had, upon legal research and my understanding of statutory interpretation, it appears that cities have the power to subpoena witnesses and documents, and that the city charter of the City of West Melbourne allows members to exercise that power in order to investigate the qualifications of members to continue serving on the city council based on the enumerated criteria. And I think that's kind of, that is the question that you are asking, or because I know that there were 2 members that did that, and then they kind of got fried for doing
the
it.
history of this is obviously we went through the mayor issue.
Yes.
And that's behind us, but the council wanted an attorney general opinion to determine, number one, if the city has the power to issue a subpoena, and number 2, if that power resides in individuals with full counsel. So the memo was something that Mr. Frampus had asked for in your boxes when it was complete. So I put it in the box, and it's basically my legal memo, and the attorney general will have her opinion in due course whenever she chooses to go through with it and release it. And I really have no idea how long that will be. Maybe weeks, maybe months. I'm just not sure. And we'll see what she says. And if she agrees, she agrees. And if she disagrees, either way, we will follow the opinion of the Attorney General.
This right here is your opinion, then?
Correct.
They were, okay.
Correct.
Okay, that's all.
She does not. One of her options is to decline to answer.
Yes.
Is that everything?
That's it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Diana Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I would say the same, a group of meetings, the League of Cities, the chamber events this month. You gave the state of West Melbourne after our last meeting.
It was awesome.
So that was well done, sir. In terms of the Sunflower House that had their grand opening today, just sharing that is run through Aging Matters in Brevard. And so they're looking to reach out to our area of the community, which doesn't include only West Melbourne. It's mostly geared for the south end of the county, but they're looking to support caregivers in our community who support older adults. So just putting that out there for people who don't know what Sunflower House is, it might be worth looking into. You don't have to be a professional caregiver. It could be a family member looking after, an older parent or something like that. So just keep that in mind if you have anyone in your neighborhoods or people that you know who should be utilizing that resource. The second thing that I did want to, bring up for council consideration for a future meeting is the potential of crosswalk enhancements. We adopted a couple months ago a resolution supporting Vision Zero. I know Mr. Rohde's been great about including it in the weekly roundup with support from Chief, so thank you for doing that. But I think in terms of making actionable steps, I think it's great that we pass a resolution, but as we look at the comprehensive plan and we're looking at the future of the city, I went and pulled up some research from the Governor's Highway Safety Association. So they pull all of the numbers for Florida and they analyze them year after year. And currently the 2023 numbers aren't out yet, so we're using the previous year's data. But all of their information is showing that those speed-related fatalities that happen in Florida increase in that age range of 35 to 44-year-olds, and then anybody who's like 65 plus had significant increases in fatalities. So I thought those were particularly interesting because those, are both kind of chunks of our West Melbourne demographic. Their recommendations were to look at lighting, signage, and markings that could especially be seen at night because those tend to be problem areas. But I know we've talked about crosswalks and safety, especially by the schools, as we have more children walking to the schools and utilizing those areas. So I wanted to bring it up for consideration. I do know, based on their data, 60% of those fatalities happen on those artery roads that are freeway. So most of ours, I think, in the city of West Melbourne would be considered county. So I think that would be, it's outside of our control, but we can ask nicely or, have those conversations. I think it's a good start. But 22% of those fatalities happen on local or collector roads, and those are our responsibility. So if we have high traffic areas, I don't know necessarily what our options are. I'd love for staff to explore that, but I wanted to bring it up for council consideration. Kind of like we have done in the past with head nods or thoughts or anything.
May I make a comment on that?
Go ahead.
I have exactly the answers to what you were asking for right here. And actually, I was going to give it in my council report, but it just seemed like there was too much for a council report to do that. So I'll send these to our clerk, and then she can send it back out for everyone. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Miss Young.
Well, I guess that's my question.
Right,
Can we
yeah,
consider
what is the question?
crosswalk enhancements within the city that, on streets that we do have, either identifying areas that would be beneficial or even identifying the roads that aren't our responsibility, that if they're identified and we can see, hey, this is something we might support as a city if the county gives its green light approval, I'd love to have those conversations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm confused about who you're directing that to. It doesn't require the council to make that decision. You can request for that to be done by the staff, correct?
That's why I'm bringing it in council reports, because if I'm going to be bringing it up, I'd like to at least get council's
She's
initial
done that.
thoughts on, would this be something we have interest in pursuing?
Absolutely.
I don't want to waste staff's time if everybody else says this is not something that's important.
So did we just agree to it by our silence? I guess I'm confused. Did we make a decision and I didn't realize it?
Vote yes.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, okay. So am I.
Yes.
So
Okay.
we've got six.
That's wonderful. I just want to make sure. Thank you. I guess if we object, we get loud.
Mr. Frampus. John, did you want to talk about that same subject?
Why not just bring it as a agenda item? You can put this in an agenda item into a packet. You can.
When I
Well, can I speak without being interrupted? I mean, it'd be nice. I just would like to say that you can do that. You can put this into an agenda item, and then they can then bring it back to us with all the different data, and then we can actually look at it and go from there. But you can put that in an agenda. So.
And when I spoke with Mr. Rohde last week, it was something that I would like to add to an agenda, and so it was recommended
You can
share
do
it in council reports and just kind of get some initial thoughts. Thank you.
All right, you can do it.
Should I make a motion that she can do that?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Ditmore,
Thank you, Mayor.
are you done? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Frampus is first. He made a comment, I thought that was his. All right, guys.
I have no report. I just have one question. And where are we at with the workshops that we were supposed to have for the term limits in the fire services that we talked about, and it seems like we're getting later in the year and nothing's happening?
So they are coming. So we have a couple of different items coming up that our very talented new clerk is working on putting together. We have the joint Business Association and West Melbourne Business Association and the Business Advisory Committee. We have a joint meeting coming up that she's getting on the calendar. We have our work session, which is getting on the calendar. We have a joint meeting with the rec department to strategize and talk about the Parks Master Plan. That's getting calendared, so that's on the 5th or 4th of March, the 5th of March. And then there's there's the Committees and Commissions dinner, or Committees and Commissions recognition event, not a dinner, hors d'oeuvres. That's also getting on the calendar, so we're working on that. We definitely plan to have the work session in March. We're hoping to keep the agenda on the second meeting of March, that we had to move one day back, that as possibly being that work session with a light agenda.
Okay, just trying to figure it out because I know both of these items could possibly be in a ballot item, so we would need to get that in.
Yep, and we got word the ballots, the items are due by, was it
I have it written down back in my office. It's August 9th, maybe, give or take a few days. I've got the information in my office, though.
We did get, yeah, all the municipalities got an email
And
from the county.
we obviously need to work backwards from there, because if we only have one meeting in July, and therefore a second reading would have to be in the July meeting, which
And
means
that's the
first
problem.
reading
If
would have to be in the
workshop takes
June
longer
meeting.
than one workshop, then we might have to push that, so don't want to keep delaying it. Thank you.
Mr. Ditmore, second round. Go for
Thank
it.
you, Mayor. Mr. Carey, jump in here if I'm incorrect what I'm saying, because it's actually going to lead to a question. So apparently, state legislature, I'm talking about Live Local Act, the state legislature apparently has rolled back all the changes that they were going to make, including the quarter mile, the industrial, everything seems to be now off the table. And it seems to be that that's made it more easier or made it more simpler for the Live Local Act to even pursue and do what they wanted to do. So no benefit to the cities. Am I correct, Mr. Carey, before I ask my question?
Yes, and everything I said at the last meeting about there being good and bad, but the good outweighs the bad, I take back, because they've amended the bill since then, and they've taken all the things that I would have said were good for us out and kept in the things that are bad for us. So, and you know, once again, just like last session, this is flowing through the committees unanimously. You know, no objection by any member of either party. It's really astounding. I listen to the league legislative calls every week, and they haven't even been bringing it up. So I'm not sure exactly what to make of that. It seems like an issue that seems to be flowing through. I also want to update you, since you brought it up, and then I'll be quiet so you can go on with your thing. Last time I had said that the House hadn't moved it. Since then, the House has taken it through a committee hearing and removed the reference to another committee hearing. So now they're trying to fast track it to get to the floor of the House, which is probably an indication, just based on my experience as a former employee of the House, that the House Speaker and the Senate President have made some sort of a deal so that the House will move this to the floor. Because as I said last session, and have continued to say, this is a priority of Senate President Pasadomo, and it didn't seem like it was a priority of the House Speaker earlier in the session, but it has become one. So you can read into that what you will.
Okay. Thank you. That being said, during my conference at City Hall here with staff, we had floated some ideas. Mr. Rhoda, I don't know if it'd be appropriate to even speak about some of those ideas now, or...
Still coming, yeah, not a good time now.
Okay, all right. I'll just say that creative thinking will be probably the plan going forward to do what's best for the city. So, thank you.
You're finished? Thank you, sir. I just had one comment. We all are now subject to the Form 6, and so there's an upcoming training session held by, I think it's Space Coast League of Cities, and I think Diana's going to get together the number of attendees, because Mr. Blake wants to know how many from West Melbourne are going to attend, so she can contact you and get that information if you want to attend that. Should be some attorneys doing the training on what it is. I did go off and look at this document. It's only a 2-page document, and it seems really easy to fill out for the most part, unless you have something really complex. And I wanted to make one thing aware. One thing that can get lengthy, depending on things, is you have to list every individual stock you own and the value of that stock, and that can get cumbersome if you have a lot of stocks. That's not true if it's a mutual fund, but if it's individual stocks, you do. So I did go off to Fidelity and to Vanguard, and both of those allow you to take your stocks from your portfolio within just a few seconds and download to an Excel file, and then you can basically put it in the form. Literally 10-minute job, and I was thinking, man, that's going to take some time to go through and do what they were asking, but it turns out to be very simple. So if you need to download a file, you can go to whoever your broker is and just simply download it from their website, and I did it. So
Mutual funds are exempt?
Mutual funds are, you show the amount, but you don't have to show individual stocks within it. But individual stocks that you own, you have to list every one and the value of those stocks. And so But it was easy to get that data in my case, and so I imagine it is in other cases as well, so.
What's the minimum value, 1,000?
I don't think so in stocks. I don't know that there is, I don't know the answer, but I think in stocks you show every stock in its value. It's unlike household items or something where there is some kind of a minimum value.
Yeah, I believe so. And the purpose of that is because if you have a conflict, they don't want you hiding behind, well, it was only a $999 worth of stock that I own. They want it to be disclosed.
All right, city attorney or city manager, comments?
Yes, I have a question.
Either one of those.
Westbrook flood mitigation, where are we?
We have a meeting with engineering consultant Thursday at City Hall and getting an update on the Westbrook. The good news as of now, knock on wood, our Westbrook flood mitigation project is still in the budget at the state level. That's additional funds to help with Westbrook on top of the original funds we had, and so that's still in the budget. But we'll be coming forward. The engineer is putting their plan together, and then we'll be coming forward with the rollout of that plan for Westbrook.
Will we be breaking ground this fiscal year?
I cannot tell a lie. I cannot tell a lie.
Been like 3 years, at least.
Or more.
Well, I haven't been here 3 years.
We know.
It's been fun.
It is one of the many projects that we are working to expedite. We know flood season is coming, and so it's a very important project, but it is a very complicated one that involves working with the district. The district is a partner in this. It's not just a West Melbourne project because it's their canal, and so I think it would be optimistic to think we should be out to bid this year. I don't know if we'll move dirt this year, but we'll be out to bid.
Okay, that'd be great. If I can help, let me know. I make brownies. I'll deliver.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there time limits on the funding? Restrictions?
Not that I'm aware of.
We don't have to use it by a certain date?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, as long as we're continuing to move this thing forward, we're not, if we weren't doing anything with it, I'd be more nervous. But the agency that's managing the grant for us seems to be pleased with our progress, so no concerns.
Is that your final comments?
Yes, thank
All
you.
right. Hey, anybody got any other comments? We're done. Adjourned.